Rich and famous people who went bankrupt. Filing bankruptcy carries a heavy stigma, but when individuals discover that they cannot pay their debts, it may be the only option. Abraham Lincoln, $29,392 in debt. Although not bankrupt in the modern sense of the term, Abraham Lincoln was left high and dry in 1833, after borrowing $1,000 to purchase a general store in New Salem, Illinois. The business collapsed the following year and Lincoln was unable to pay off the debt. His two remaining assets, his horse and surveying equipment, were confiscated, and it took the future president several years to pay off his debts. Other presidents who went bankrupt before or after their stay in the White House include Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Ulysses S. Grant. While Donald Trump filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on 6 occasions, he did so on behalf of his businesses and has never declared personal bankruptcy. Veronica Lake, $1.5 million in debt. Screen siren Veronica Lake, who is famed for her femme fatale roles in 1940s movies including Miss Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia, not to mention her much-imitated wavy hairstyle, had a serious alcohol addiction that contributed to her decline as a star. Lake declared bankruptcy in 1951 at the end of her film career. The tragic actress had debts of $156,574, and her home was seized by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, due to unpaid taxes. Lake had a stint as a cocktail waitress in the early 1960s, but returned to acting in 1963, appearing on stage and in several TV shows, but died relatively young at 50 from alcohol-related illness. Aaron Carter, $2.4 million in debt. The younger brother of Backstreet Boy Nick Carter, Aaron Carter followed his sibling into show business and made more than $200 million by the time he turned 18. A staggering sum of money that should have set him up for life. There was just one catch. Carter failed to meet his tax obligations and owed the Internal Revenue Service millions. He claimed his parents failed to manage his money correctly. In 2013, at the age of 26, Carter filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy with assets of just $8,232 and debts of $2.2 million, much of which was owed to the U.S. tax authorities. Since then, Carter has been working hard to pay his dues, releasing music and performing in as many shows as possible, but was arrested in 2017 for driving under the influence and marijuana possession. Mark Twain, $2.9 million in debt. Great American writer Mark Twain, whose real name was Samuel Clemens, made a good amount of money from writing, but lost a fortune investing in newfangled technologies, most notably the page typesetting machine. Twain plowed $300,000 into the gadget during the 1880s, and went bankrupt in the early 1890s. In 1894, the father of American literature declared himself bankrupt in a New York state court. His debts amounted to $100,000, around $2.9 million when adjusted for inflation. Fortunately, Twain recovered financially, with the help of Gilded Age industrialist Henry Huddleston Rogers. Mickey Rooney, $3 million in debt. At the peak of his career, actor and comedian Mickey Rooney had a personal fortune of around $12 million. Yet by the early 1960s, the man Vanity Fair had burned through the lion's share. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1962. In addition to costly alcohol and drug addictions, Rooney was a compulsive gambler, and his finances were mismanaged to boot. The star never regained his fortune, and in 2011 he alleged elder abuse and financial exploitation by members of his family during a Senate Special Committee hearing. The Hollywood icon died in 2014 at the age of 95, leaving an estate valued at just $18,000 and owing medical bills and back taxes. Karen Millen, $8.5 million in debt. Fashion entrepreneur Karen Millen co-founded her eponymous company in 1981 with just £100, $220, and opened her first store in Maidstone, England in 1983. The British chain expanded throughout the 1980s and 1990s, and by the early 2000s, Karen Millen boasted 130 stores across the world. In 2004, the business was acquired by Icelandic company Mosaic Fashions, and Millen cashed in to the tune of $65 million. Despite the windfall, Millen ended up in deep financial trouble. The former fashion boss claims she was defrauded by Kaupthing, the failed Icelandic bank that financed the acquisition of her company, and that she was roped into a sketchy tax avoidance scheme, both of which cost her dear. In 2016, Millen was declared bankrupt by the UK's Inland Revenue after failing to pay $7.8 million tax bill. Burt Reynolds, $16.1 million in debt. Actor Burt Reynolds died in 2018 and left the world with a respectable net worth of $5 million, but the Smokey and the Bandit and Boogie Nights star had plenty of financial headaches to deal with during his life, which nevertheless he resolved. After his costly divorce from Lonnie Anderson in 1993, Reynolds' finances took a turn for the worse. A failed restaurant venture and a tendency to overspend, Reynolds allegedly spent $100,000 on vain things, and filed for bankruptcy in 1996 with debts of $10 million. Mike Tyson, $31.6 million in debt. Hell-raising boxer Mike Tyson made a whopping $300 million during his 20-year career in the ring, but pretty much blew the lot. His most ridiculously over-the-top purchases included a $2 million bathtub, 110 luxury cars, a gold and diamond chain worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and 3 white Bengal tigers priced at $70,000 each. Tyson's crazy overspending caught up with him in the early 2000s, and he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2003 with $23 million in debts. His main creditors were the U.S. Internal Revenue Service and the UK's Inland Revenue, as well as various state treasuries and law firms. 50 Cent, $38.4 million in debt. 50 Cent's legal wranglings got him into hot water, and he had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2015. Though he claimed assets of up to $50 million against debts of $36 million, the rapper, producer, and entrepreneur, whose real name is Curtis James Jackson III, had been hit with legal fees and judgments totaling $20 million. The judgments against the rapper ranged from a $6 million award to rapper Rick Ross's former girlfriend Lastonia Leviston for posting an intimate tape of her online without her consent, to $17.2 million issued to a business partner who accused 50 Cent of stealing the design of his Sleep by 50 headphones. He has since cleared his debts, helped by a payout of $13.65 million from lawyers after he won a legal malpractice lawsuit. William Fox, $172.8 million in debt. Born Wilhelm Fuchs, William Fox founded what would become 20th Century Fox in 1915, building the firm into a major movie studio, but his fortunes went south after he bought a stake in rival studio Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, angering its boss Louis B. Mayer, who used his high-level connections to persuade the Justice Department to sue Fox for breaking antitrust laws. The antitrust case dented his fortune, which was further depleted by the Wall Street crash and a car accident injury that rendered him unable to work. The Hollywood mogul lost control of the Fox Film Corporation in 1930 following a hostile takeover, and filed for bankruptcy in 1936 with debts of $9.5 million. Fox was imprisoned in 1942 for attempting to bribe a judge during his bankruptcy proceedings, and faded into obscurity thereafter. Sean Quinn, $3.8 billion in debt. Ireland's one-time richest person, Sean Quinn had a personal fortune of $6 billion in 2008, according to Forbes. The rags-to-riches tycoon started out with a humble gravel business which he grew into a colossal conglomerate spanning construction, manufacturing, real estate, insurance, and more. The tycoon had invested heavily in the Anglo-Irish Bank using risky financial instruments and had lost astonishing sums of money when his share price fell after the 2008 crash. Quinn's liabilities reached $3.2 billion, and the magnate was declared bankrupt in 2011 in Northern Ireland and in 2012 in the Republic. Compounding his fall from grace, Quinn went on to serve 9 weeks in prison for asset stripping and non-cooperation with the banking authorities.